Well, we're back with the bus, and we need to get some work done on it today, try and fix a few of its issues. Hey everyone, and welcome to Carysgarage. On this episode, we're going to get some work done to the 1972 Volkswagen bus. So, two of the main issues right now is one of the CV joints, the boots, has been torn and destroyed for years, and it's in pretty bad shape. So we're gonna go ahead and replace the two CV joints on that side, and then there's some noise coming from the front end, so we need to figure out what that is and kind of how to sort it out. So let's go take it for a quick drive just up and down the road and see if we can figure out what the noise is. Before we take the bus for a quick little drive up and down the road, let me just show you kind of what the plan of attack is with the CV joints. So what I decided to do was to find a good set of used German CV joints, which is these guys right here. They are pretty dirty, but what we're gonna go ahead and do is strip the old boots off, all the fasteners, put them in a bucket with some degreaser, soak them really thoroughly, take them all apart and clean them. The reason why I went this route was I could get new CV joints, but they're pretty expensive. I'm trying to save a little bit of money here. And the only other CV joints I could get my hands on are of a quality that I don't particularly like. So I'm going to go ahead and just use these good used German ones. I've done this a few times in the past, never had any problems, just as long as they roll smoothly, don't bind. I've, never really had that sort of issue. So I'm going to go ahead and get these stripped real quick, throw them in the bucket with some really good, powerful degreaser, and then we'll take the bus for a quick drive. Got the boots off, and I also scraped off all the outside of these guys. And West Germany, Volkswagen Audi, so go ahead and drop them in the bucket. Let's go ahead and get some degreaser in there and let them sit for a little while. I use my good old trusty purple power. Always had good luck with this stuff. Alright. Both submerged. Go ahead and let those guys sit, and then we'll be able to take them out and really thoroughly clean them. Also got a new boot kit with some grease and bolts and snap rings, so we will be golden. And of course, I have the good feeling that there'll be the 6-point Allens on the axle, which they usually always are, and they're a total pain to get out, but thankfully this is a Southwest rust-free bus, so it shouldn't be that big of a deal. We're in the bus, just got it started up, so let's go take it just for a quick drive up my road and see what is going on with it. There's some children on bicycles. Let's go a different way. Living on a dirt road can definitely be pretty good for doing tests on vehicles, since lots of bumps, uneven road, and it'll really test out your suspension, see if there's any weird noises or clunking. I don't really hear anything. I don't really feel anything other than it's an old bus. But, I am not sure. I'll probably end up jacking up the front axle, take a look at the wheels. I did just put new wheel bearings, races, and brake pads up front. I don't really think anything would come loose from that. I don't feel any signs of any clunking wheel bearings or any sort of issues like that. There's a bunch of baby quails currently running across our road. That's always fun. But, alright, well, let me get back to the house and let's start getting to work on it. So I already started cleaning this one, getting some of the gunk out of it, but now what we're going to do is we're going to fully disassemble it. And I did make some markings, so I remember how it's oriented. We're just going to go ahead and get all the balls out, so we can really thoroughly clean it up and take it apart. Or at least that's the general idea of practice. the outer cage, the inner cage with the balls. Is one of those fiddly instances that you just got to kind of get it just right, and then things work out. And yeah, there we go. Let's go ahead and start cleaning up all the parts, and then we can reassemble it with fresh grease, new boots, and then, of course, we got to get the axle out of the bus and get the old CV joints off, and then get these guys installed, and then it'll be greatly improved. And one of the things, this could be controversial, I don't know. Using a used CV joint like this, within a particular vehicle, and then what we're going to do is take it apart, clean it, put it back together. I did not mark which ball came out of where, and it's going to go in a different vehicle. So by doing that, we're going to change the spots of wear pattern. So in theory, what we'll end up doing is creating fresher spots, so a newer area for it to wear on. So it won't be that big of a deal. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and take the brush with some cleaner and just get all the old CV axle grease and gunk off of it so it's all nice and clean. Kind of overall in general a fairly gross and very greasy job. CV axle grease is very thick and sticky, especially when it's used and worn for a while. And there is a little bit of wear on this, but anything's got to be better than what's currently in it, that's for sure. A lot of rags on this one. Now we'll just get a cleaner surface. This rag just has some lint on it. It's not that big of a deal. We'll go ahead and find my markings. And we'll slowly start putting it back together. There we go. All nice and clean. Put back together. Oriented the same way that I took it apart. There's the markings. So what I'll go ahead and do is I'm just going to put this aside for now, and then when we're ready to start installing it and put the new boots on, then I'll grease them up. But I don't want to get them greasy right now because it'll just make a bloody mess out of everything. So I'll go ahead and get the second one all taken apart. Same thing, all nice and cleaned up, just like this one. And then we'll take the axle, because we're only doing one, out of the bus and go ahead and get these CV joints installed. We now have two clean CV joints. Like I say, I'm not going to lube them until we get the new boots on. So let's go ahead and get set up under the bus and get that old axle out. So as you can see, the boot is torn, and this this joint is just filled up with junk and dirt, so that's definitely why it's bad. So as you can tell, the boot is just completely destroyed, and the CV joint is just filled with junk, so that's why this one's going bad. So one of the biggest problems we have with the CV joint bolts is they get completely filled with gunk and junk, and it makes it very difficult to pull them out. So what we need to do is just kind of pick out the center, get as much of the old grease and dirt and garbage out of it so we can get the 6-point socket in there and try and get it out without stripping it, because I have done that more than a few times, and that's really not fun. Small breaker bar, brace the tire, and that one, thankfully, was easy. Now, there's just, 6, 12, 11 more to go. Gonna leave this one in place so I can still use the wheel to be able to stop it from rotating, and we'll go ahead and get the inner one off and then pull the whole axle assembly out. Finally got it out. What a bear. Let's see if we can get the axle off. There we go. The joint is off. What a royal pain. Now we'll just go ahead and repeat it on this side. Well, I got one CV joint on, so let's go ahead and get the other one on real quick. Pretty easy. You just slide on like that, and then we get the groove. And these have snap rings instead of the more conventional style snap rings. They're the ones that they had on it, so they're a bit easier to install. So go ahead and grab that. Then all we do simply that. Make sure it's seated all the way around, which this one is. And then you got to make sure your CB joints don't fall apart. And now is the fun part, or lack thereof, really. You have to pack the joints with grease. We've got our CV axle grease here. Go ahead and cut it open. Go ahead and pull the boot back, and then it's a pretty simple procedure. All we do is just start packing the joint with grease. Then once we make sure it's all packed with grease, we slide the boot back into place, and then we'll put all of the bolts with the little bridges on to hold it in place. It's a very, very messy job. Now that one's done, we'll move on to the other side. Well, now we're back under the bus. So let's go ahead and just get the axles in and the bolts started. All right, there. A couple of them are started, so we can go ahead and start to get the rest of the bolts in. According to the shop manual, these need to be torqued down to 25 foot-pounds, so I'm going to go ahead and torque these up. There we go, the axle is installed and torqued down. Yes, I know those clamps are not put in, they're not quite the right size, so I need to pop them off and figure out a different solution, but the axle's all done. Well, that wraps it up on the video of the 72 bus. Got the CV joints replaced, Got everything fairly decent, looked around, didn't really see anything else, and took it for a quick drive, and sure seems to drive pretty good. Before, it used to have a kind of a humming sound from the rear end on the CV joint that had the torn boot, and it's not there anymore, so looks like it's good. Well, thanks so much for watching. Really appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done that. Like the video, leave a comment, share, and see you guys in the next one.